Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here today. I'm stepping in very short notice for André Steinau, who would have loved to be here today, but who caught a sickness during the weekend. So regards from his side. I think he's getting well soon. I joined some of the talks virtually, and I've participated today in this conference, and I think we have heard quite a lot that I identify with, and I try now in the last session of the day to somehow summarize it and maybe also give a bit of another view, or an integrated view, a perspective change on how we see hydrogen. Joule, we want to talk about the decentralized aspect of hydrogen and how we see how this can really support the ramp up in the German hydrogen market. First of all, talking about a change of perspective, as Joule, we are a player in the renewable energy sphere. So we come from a world of 100% renewables. We are a developer. I will show you shortly what we do. This is important to understand because this is really our vision and this is what drives our market perspective. And we feel there's a lot to gain in this perspective that we bring to the hydrogen sphere. Very short tour through our value chain, our portfolio. We are active in the entire landscape of renewable energies. We don't only do production, that's where we started with wind and PV, typical project developer, but we also care for conversion, and nowadays we are even more active on the distribution and the consumption side. Because what we see is on our way to the energy utility 4.0, very integrated, we cannot just deal with production anymore. You cannot just produce green electrons and then have the grid or the market care for them, but you really need to see how to create the value and how to make value out of these electrons that we produce. So we are active in the heat market, as you can see. We have a subsidiary in the e-mobility infrastructure market. This is always very nice that you don't compete purely with battery electric. We see both has its means, but I myself, my colleagues and I, we work in the hydrogen division, so we care for the production of green hydrogen and for the distribution and for the application in various industries, very active at the moment in mobility, so we agree with what has been said earlier. Mobility is at the moment a key application for green hydrogen, but we also look for new means of hydrogen. Where are we active? The presentation I give to you has a very German focus, and this is because we are active in Germany. As a group, we have also activities in Western Europe. We have been active in Northern America before, but what you are about to hear is very tailored to the German market. Why? Because this is where we're active at now and where we see the issues and the tendencies that are important for this decentralized hydrogen production. We also have talks to Scandinavia. I will be in Italy next week, which is also a very interesting market. But even in Germany, we see a lot of potential, and we are opposed to the idea that Germany needs to be a hydrogen importing market. And we will elaborate on this. Some key numbers on the group. I will go through this very quickly because you can look it up anyways. It just tells you the story. We are fairly new to the market, founded 2009 by two farmers, by the way. We had a strong growth around almost 1,000 employees these days, and our pipeline mainly is in wind and PV, onshore wind, by the way. We also have heating networks, a very big topic, of course, these days. And in hydrogen, 2 filling stations at the moment. I wish there was already 3, but we feed them with 5 electrolyzers at the moment. We will have 3 new ecosystems coming into power this year. So they are under construction in Bremerhaven. Last week, the electrolyzers were delivered. So this number in the bottom right, hopefully to grow very soon. Now coming to the energy perspective that I mentioned. This will be now the problem issue for a few slides, and then we come to the solution. So bear with me. We do have an issue in the energy transformation because although we have quite high shares in electricity consumption, overall it's only 10% renewable these days. Because we all know mobility, heating, industrial consumption, all these aspects, all these sectors are not yet as green as they could be. So we need to find a way to use this electricity that we can generate and also decarbonize other sectors. And if you look on what our aspects or our targets as Germany actually are, when you look in the EEG, and I was astounded by these numbers as well when I first saw them, we have a very ambitious pipeline when it comes to renewable installation. We want to have 400 gigawatts of PV and 160 of wind onshore only. There are some additional sources. We have not even wind offshore included, but only by these numbers you can tell it's very ambitious what we have in our books. We do have the potentials. When we look on the availability of sites in Germany, there is space to install this, but of course we need to integrate this and we need to find the solutions to use these electrons and not just shut them down when there are too many of them. And some challenges as well. I don't have to talk about the volatility in sun and PV. We have to find means of storing it. I am from the northern German area of Germany, so we have been having redispatch and Einsmann measurements for 10, 15 years now. I looked it up, I think just in TenneT grid zone we had almost 2 billion of surplus of energy shut down, and we don't not make use of this energy already today, and you see how low the bars were. So this problem will continue to raise, and this will be a problem eventually in entire Germany. We won't be only limited to northern Germany, we will see this also in the southern German grid regions. For now, of course, northern German, because we don't get rid of the electricity as well. We can't transport the electricity, the electrons to the south adequately. We have now the first industrial placements like Northvolt coming to the north, which is from an economic development perspective for northern Germany great. But we have to maintain our industry in the south as well, in Baden-Württemberg and Bavaria, and we need to find ways to transport more energy. That much for the problem issue, because I want to come to the solution. And visualized again the 560 gigawatts. This compared to only 90 gigawatt of peak demand in the grid right now. So there will be no way, in our opinion, that this can be integrated by all means. We talked about the Dutch demand. If everything would be electrified, then we would have 16 gigawatt on top. Those numbers don't really move the needle much. We have these issues, we have these overcapacities, and in our opinion, we need to see electricity not just as something you pump into the grid and then you got rid of it and you get your fee, but you really need to make use of it, and you need to use it for other applications, and also to think about the consumption and move, in best case, move electricity production and consumption close to each other. And we see two things as big means. We see heat pumps, municipal heating, as Joule Group, as one of these topics where we really can have effective sector coupling. This is a success story that we already plan today. On the other hand, and today I'm not on the heat forum, I'm talking about hydrogen. Hydrogen for us is an even better solution for the long-term storage of energy and for the transportation. So even if you convert it back into electricity, we have an option there to store this energy being produced and make it available. Even better, of course, if we use the hydrogen in applications like mobility, if we transport it, if we store it in caverns, for example, or if we go to the industry and use it for process heat. We see that this is ambition, this concept of having as a production and utilization aligned to each other works best for now when we have decentralized, rather small asset. Why is it so? We talked about the backbone already, which is a very good project because it gives us a security and we will eventually need it. But this will be in place in 2028 on the main areas, potentially even later in the rural parts, in the urban rural parts, yeah. We see other aspects like imports, etc., that are always very big in their thoughts, but actually we need the electricity. We can produce it locally and we need it locally. So this electricity production we can do regionally. Even today we can reuse the energy on site more or less where it was produced. We can keep the ways short for the transportation, do it even in the trailers that you have seen before, and have this value creation actually on site. A little side note here, we talk a lot about industrial usage of hydrogen, and then always we talk about the big steel mills, which admittedly they are huge and they will have demands that will be very difficult to handle just with a little electrolyzer as the one that you saw. But when we think about industry, we think about Mittelstand in Germany, about asphalt plants, about small companies that have furnace processes, and they will not be connected to the hydrogen backbone in the next 10 years to come. So we may wait for then and then hope that we will have the one-fits-all solution. But given what we saw on the renewable energies and the possibilities that also Orban Keusen mentioned this morning to produce electricity much cheaper in Germany already today. We think we have to align this and have to create the hydrogen on short notice where it's needed. Therefore, our pledge for decentralized green hydrogen, we think it accelerates the energy transition. It creates independence of security and security of supply. So we're not importing our energy anymore, but we are able to create our energy on our own. And we have more local value creation. And therefore, we think it accelerates the energy transition. Actually, it also, in our opinion, accelerates the hydrogen transformation, because we will see hydrogen available much sooner by decentral plants than waiting for the pipeline or waiting for the imports. Now, talking about our best, our success case, or our best case, the e-farm in North Frisia, where we tested all this. By today's standards, it's a rather small project, but it's really where we have this being tested for 2 years now. It's a small project with 2 filling stations, refilling stations. We operate 2 buses by Caetano, and they are used for the public transport up there. This whole system is fed by 5 very small electrolysis stations. Nowadays, even those electrolyzers would be bigger. I mean, we talk about 1.5 megawatt in total output. If you ask yourself what is decentral today, a setup would be 5 megawatts, sometimes even 10 megawatts of electrolysis. I don't say that 100 megawatts can't be decentral. I think there are very good locations in Germany where we can operate that as well, but they won't be the forerunners. They won't be the early projects. We will see a lot of 5 to 10 megawatt projects that can produce very soon and that can supply such systems. And as I laid out already, we see a huge potential, not just in the mobility market. Mobility at the moment is the most mature one and where we have the best price points, but when we look in the industry, I already gave some ideas where we could deliver this. We see a lot of applications where not the tanker from Middle East is needed in quantity, but hydrogen is needed fairly on short notice. It needs to be transported. It needs to be, needs to be able to be handled, etc. And we can provide this on fairly short notice. A little side topic in this regard, I was fairly interested also in the pressure discussion earlier, because we also have quite an opinion in this, so 350 bars or 700 bars. As a point of an operator, we always try to minimize the operation cost, and therefore we also think 350 bars is perfectly well suited for the absolute majority of application cases. And trying to reach for the more technology advanced solution, it's a very good story, and there will be applications in aviation, etc., where we even need the liquefied stuff. But if we now wait for too long to have the perfect liquefied solution, and if we tell the customer you can have that for the same price, that will hinder us, because that will take time. And I also think 1 or 2 liquefiers we have in Germany at the moment, this makes it more complex again to have a success story and to really deliver. So 350 bars, we can already today in many, many areas in Germany deliver something. If you have a demand there, if you have an industrial plant, talk to us, because you will be surprised that there's much more availability today already. Yeah, talking about our pipeline, I already mentioned e-farm in northern Germany. So at the moment, you still see this little overweight in northern German area, just because the conditions are very preferable there. We will see Kiel and Bremerhaven on the grid in this year. But also we see sprawled across Germany some places already where we can produce cheap green hydrogen, or considerably cheap hydrogen, because the grid situation will be more and more tense also in southern Bavaria. It won't be the place for 100 megawatt electrolysis, but having a small scale, cost-effective unit there being fed by green energy will be a success story also in these regions. And that being said, a little last commercial block. What do we do as GP Joule? You see, we have this e-farm ecosystem that we delivered from scratch. We all did a lot of stuff in-house, and of course we are very happy to provide those services now to other parties in the market, be it as a full-grown ecosystem. We still do that, but we also assist with implementation studies with all the conceptual stuff in the beginning. We will provide EPC services and build everything also for mobility solutions and refueling stations. And for the operation management, actually, It reads quite small, but when we talk about getting the renewable energy with the fluctuations and hydrogen production aligned with a consumption pattern that also is not even, digital platforms that we develop in-house will be more and more relevant as well to make this align to each other and have the best outcome. And overall, the business case, the business model we always have in sight, because in the end, our projects also need to be feasible, and we are very happy to share our experience and, yeah, make projects fly. That being said, thank you very much for bearing with me that late in the second day. And now I think we have time for some questions.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Henning. We have a period of time for 2 or 3 questions, and let's start with the second question, which appeared first. You made the case for a decentralized hydrogen economy, basically, overall. What, from your perspective, needs to happen to make that story a success, to move the hydrogen industry towards a more decentralized structure? So your questions on elements or enhancements. What factors need to
It's a broad question. It's a broad question.
Yes.
Of course, we are in the business to develop sites, and it's easier to develop one 100 megawatt site than 25 megawatt sites. So it is more effort. You need a certain stakeholder commitment and stakeholder participation. We need the electricity availability always, and we need the regulatory framework. If we go through 20 permit procedures, they better be standardized, and there better be a guideline for that.
Okay, because that is already the second question. What kind of considerations need to be addressed by regulatory bodies and politicians? So standardization, you said?
Yeah, I mean, generally the whole, and I'm not the expert, as you will hear, but Bebauungspläne, Außenlagenprivilegierungstopics, making it more easy for our specialists to build those plans in certain areas and not go through all procedures. With a perspective on electricity markets, we all agree with these bubbles and with the prices, how easy it is and how trivial it is to use the excess energy. It is not that easy to do that, actually, from a regulatory point of view. So, Energiewirtschaftsgesetz, it's in the making.
Okay, good. 2 more specific questions. How much is 1 kilogram hydrogen in E-Farm North Frisia?
I think latest price 13.85. Quite stable, I can tell, because it's renewable energy. So it's no gas price that fluctuates and rises in world crisis, but it's a renewable energy PPA, so it stays like this.
Okay. How long does it last currently from plan to realization of a decentralized hydrogen production? For example, next to a big onshore wind park to prevent curtailment at peaks, and what are the main hurdles?
There's no one answer to this. It really depends. We have a pipeline of projects. I think if we start greenfield and you have everything aligned and you go through it, probably it's 18 to 24 months. You will never see this in real life, because there will always be a hold period when you wait for permits, when you wait for funding or anything else. But planning it together with a wind park and maybe making it part of the wind park development helps, of course.
From which supplier do you buy your electrolyzer?
We are very open. I would say the cheapest and most resilient ones, but the most resilient ones are even more important in this regard. We are very close in line with HTEC, but we also have contracts with H2B2. MEC5, we talk to them. I think we talk to everyone. Sorry for the ones I don't mention now. Very open in general.
How do you secure supply to your off-takers with the volatility of renewable energies as an energy source?
I mentioned this data platforms that we develop in-house, and that's crucial, actually, because you need to have a sophisticated planning tool. You need to keep reserves, but not have too much reserves, have not too much stock. And it's, in the end, it's a lot of prediction and growing the network. So at the moment, it is for sure a challenge. We have to have more risk margins at the moment. Once the network grows bigger, we can afford to be more just in time with our delivery.
Okay. As you answer these questions so eloquently and short, we'll take the last 2, but then we're done. How difficult is it to get a pure water supply to decentralized locations? Can you refine it from the drinking water supply? Is that included in energy and financial costs?
always included. It's part of what we need to do when we do an electrolysis. Relatively easier than to a large-scale plant because we sometimes tend to take just the surface water. That is where we don't have a scaling in electrolysis at the moment. They don't get cheaper when you buy the 10 times the size, but actually it gets much harder to organize the grid connection and the water. So at the moment, much easier to get water for a 5-10 megawatt plant than for the large ones.
And our final question, what commitment, price and tenor from the local offtake is required to make the project bankable?
That is, that changes, and that got more tough in the past 6 months, I would say. We have very good relations with the capital market, with various players, and it depends really. But offtake, tenor, those topics are at our desk, and of course, I cannot give a finite answer, but any off-taker that is willing to sign off-take agreements can be assured also a preferable price, because that is what we need at the moment.
Thank you, Henning. Now the time is over.
Thank you very
very
much
much to you.